The talisman for Bath. In JVG we trust. And with very, very good reason. Picture a 6-year-old boy dodging across the sun-baked turf of Loftus in Pretoria, chasing down wayward kicks and feeding the ball back to the great Nas Boerter. It is a scene from South African rugby's golden era. And that boy, bright-eyed, obsessive, already watching everything, was Johann van Graan. He was born on 18th of March 1980 in Pretoria, the son of Johann van Graan, the long-serving chief executive of the Blue Bulls Rugby Union. He was a ball boy at Loftus from the age of 6. Rugby was not merely a pastime in the Van Graan household. It was the family business, the dinner-table conversation, the air that they breathed. Johann van Graan attended Afrikaans so gehoord CM School, commonly known in South Africa as Affies in Pretoria, a leading school renowned for its strong rugby program that has produced numerous professional players and coaches. It is the kind of school where rugby is a vocation, not just a sport, and it provided the perfect hothouse for a young mind already consumed by the game. But here's the thing about Johann van Graan. He was never going to be a player, not at the top level anyway, where others his age dreamed of pulling on a Springbok jersey and run out in front of 80,000 people. Van Graan's mind worked differently. He was drawn not to the action itself, but to the patterns behind it. The why, the how, the numbers. He showed a remarkable interest in analysis from an early age. As a child, Van Graan frequently roamed the corridors of Loftus Versrot, GT's father's role. He started working for the Bulls at the bottom, as a teenage technical advisor, a man with a clipboard and a camera and an eye that missed nothing. In his early days, Heineke Meyer was searching for a like-minded brain to help him analyze statistics. He started by assisting with basic video analysis, using those old-fashioned VHS tapes, pausing, rewinding, making notes, building pictures of how rugby worked at its most elite level. While his peers were out on weekends, he was mapping line-out structures. It was painstaking, unglamorous work, and Van Graan was absolutely brilliant at it. But at the Bulls, Meyer and his team faced an impossible task. The Bulls finished dead last in Super Rugby in 2002. Nobody wanted to be there. Nobody wanted to come to Pretoria. They had no money, no glamour, no sea breeze like the Stormers down in Cape Town. What they had though was a culture with a vision and a young analyst with a ferocious work ethic. The culture they built produced something remarkable. Ultimately, eventually, nobody wants to lead the Bulls. They had Dixon Matfield, Bakkies Botha, Donnie Russell and Farid de Pre, none of whom wanted to leave. They believed in culture before game plans, and the results followed. Under head coach Heineke Meyer, and a focus on forwards and attack, Van Graan helped the South African franchise win 3 Super 14 titles. Those years with Van Graan's education, in the deepest sense, or a formal degree, but something better. He learned the nuances of lineouts from the titanic Matfield. The value of calm amidst the chaos was instilled by De Bruyne, the genius scrum half. Van Graan rates still as the finest player that he has ever coached. He absorbed everything, he wrote everything down. He trusted the process before. Trusting the process became a cliche. Meyer still calls Van Graan his greatest appointment yet. In 2012, when Heineke Meyer was appointed head coach of the Springboks, he didn't leave his trusted lieutenant behind. Van Graan joined the Springboks coaching setup as a technical advisor, which progressed to that of the forwards coach. This was the furnace, international rugby, where every decision is magnified and every system is stress-tested. Van Graan learned how to make decisions under pressure. He was the bridge between the coaching box and the pitch. Van Graan assisted Meyer during the 2015 Rugby World Cup and was the only surviving member of the coaching ticket, which took South Africa to the World Cup semi-finals. He continued under new Springboks head coach Alistair Coetzee, but by 2017 it was clear that the next chapter was calling him, and Van Graan was ready to lead.
Have made the most of it. Oh, aren't they happy? Not only on the field, but in the coach's box as well.
They've been on tour for a while. Have a look at Heineke.
In October 2017, it was confirmed that Van Graan would be leading South Africa to join the Irish Pro 14 side Munster as the new head coach, replacing Rassie Erasmus, who was returning to South Africa. What a legacy. What shoes and boots to fill. Van Graan and his family made the move to Limerick in November 2017. His impact was immediate as he and the coaching staff guided the squads to the semi-final stages of the Champions Cup and the Guinness Pro 14 in his first season. He did it again after the first year and the year after that. In total, 5 Champions Cup semi-finals and the Pro 14 final. Consistent, competitive and organized. But somehow, the criticism would come, as it always does in Ireland. Some felt his style was too conservative, and others felt he should have won trophies and not just taken them to
Can we turn to your piece on Munster,
finals.
page 74 and 75 of the Mail on Sunday, because this is quite damning of Johann van Graan, really.
Van Graan doesn't feel like it's my team, I'm the man in charge. You know, he's got 2 big names underneath him now in Roundtree and Larkham. I think coming out and saying I need more time wasn't the strongest move when you're there in your 3rd season, you know. I don't want to damn the guy. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of disquiet on the ground. I'd be kind of close to the club game in Munster and they just don't see it.
I'm not necessarily saying there's a mourning period, because I don't know if they're actually devastated that he's going, because it felt like we were in a bit of a limbo as to whether they wanted him or not.
Some public figures like Simon Zebo defended him robustly, describing Van Graan as a master tactician, while also suggesting that internal challenges, including a lack of support and toxic undermining from certain figures behind the scenes, negatively impacted the team's results. Van Graan was likely being sabotaged from within. When Van Graan arrived at Bath in the summer of 2022, they had endured their worst season, finishing at the very bottom of a Premiership table. Then came the moment that crystallized the scale of the crisis at Bath. A 64-0 home defeat to Gloucester, their fiercest rivals, a result so humiliating it prompted a full structural overhaul at the club. Stuart Hooper was moved from director rugby to a newly created general manager role, and Van Graan was handed full control. Van Graan described Bath as being broken as a club when he arrived, and admitted that the atmosphere felt toxic. A club that had once been the kings of European rugby, winning the Heineken Cup in 1998, had become a byword for underachievements. But Van Graan got to work, hard work. He's a famously early riser. He runs, he reflects, he prays, he plans, and gathers his coaches. His methods are meticulous to a degree that is borderline obsessive. One morning is etched in the memory of former Bath hooker Ronan McNally. When the Bath line-out leaders were called into Van Graan's office, they were greeted by what resembled a scene from a detective drama. His office was littered with paper, clipboard paper, big flip chart sheets all taped to the walls. It'd gone into an overnight line-out frenzy, predicting Leinster's line-outs. This is how Van Graan operates. Nothing is left to chance. No scenarios unconsidered. He watches endless hours of rugby, plotting for intricacies and obstacles. Van Graan is not a training ditch for every season, but never interferes with an assistant's area. He respects his staff. He trusts his system. He needs what he calls the ARPG, the all-round pressure game, formulating how Bath approach every conceivable scenario. It is, as McNally puts it, the pursuit of the perfect game. His arrival made an immediate impact as Bath moved from the bottom of the table to finishing 8th at the end of the 2022-2023 season, securing Champions Cup qualification in the process. 8th, it's not glamorous, not a headline grabbing, but a seismic shift in direction for a club that had been in free fall. Then came the Challenge Cup that beat Power away, in Gloucester at home in the quarterfinal, then Edinburgh away in the semi-final, and then in the final against Lyon, Bath won 37-12 to claim the Challenge Cup for the second time in their history. The trophy in year one, barely anyone saw that coming. Season 2 brought further evidence that this was not a fluke. In Europe, Bath reached the knockout stage of the Champions Cup the first time since 2015. After defeating Sale Sharks in the semi-final, they faced Northampton Saints in the Premiership final and lost narrowly, 25-21. It was after this that Van Graan signed a new 6-year contract with the club, extending his appointment to 2030. Then came Season 3 in 2024-2025. This is the one that will live forever in Bath's story. In March 2025, Bath ended a 17-year trophy drought by beating Exeter Chiefs 48-14 in the Premiership Rugby Cup final. Then the Challenge Cup retained, and then on a day that the city of Bath will not forget for a generation to come, Bath defeated Leicester Tigers 23-21 to claim their first Premiership title in 29 years. The third leg of the historic treble, the Premiership Cup, the EPCR and the Gallagher Premiership title itself, all in 1 year. Along the way, they delivered some results that simply defied belief, including a 68-10 demolition of Saracens, inflicting on them their worst defeat in Premiership history. And then just last week, Bath won at the Rec to take on Harlequins and delivered a bonus point 48-15 victory. The week before that, they beat Northampton Saints in the Champions Cup quarterfinal in a thrilling nail-biting 43-41 clash, setting up a semi-final against the giants of French rugby, Bordeaux. Controlled, purposeful and clinical when it mattered most. The kind of performance that had Van Graan's fingerprints all over it. The all-round pressure game, the relentless structure, the refusal to let moments of flair derail a mission. The reigning Premiership champions playing like they intend to stay at the top. Before matches, Johann van Graan is often seen stalking the perimeter of the pitch with an A5 notebook tucked under his arm. He sees putting pen to paper as a concrete commitment to his process. We can only imagine that his house in Bath's Farley estate is thick with journals and scribbled notepads. His ability to connect with the players he works with has seen him become a groomsman at numerous players' weddings over the years. This is not a coach who rules by fear or distance. He focuses on humility, building trust, and team spirit. The question that Bath supporters must now grapple with, delightfully, is whether this is just the beginning. Van Graan is under contract to Bath until 2030 and is already among the favourites to eventually succeed Rassie Erasmus as Springboks coach. South Africa wants him back, but his old club, the Bulls, has already had his name on a shortlist. The Springbok crown will one day be vacant again. For now, though, he is Bath's, and Bath is his. Please like, comment and subscribe. We're only a tiny rugby channel and we appreciate every little bit of support.